Hey guys, Dustin here. Welcome to another episode of Horroritis. Today we're doing a Christmas movie. Now I know Christmas is already over and I wasn't even on YouTube at the time to upload any Christmas videos, but this movie is, well, it's not just a Christmas movie, it's actually just a very good movie that just happens to take place in Christmas setting. So let's jump right in. So today's movie is A Christmas Horror Story from 2015. This movie we found while trolling through Netflix like we do, and on the cover you see it's a picture of Santa Claus battling Krampus, and it just looks kind of cool. So we decided, oh, what the hell, let's check it out. And to be honest, we were not disappointed one bit. So let's just jump right in. The movie starts with Santa walking through his stables, and he's greeting all of the reindeer as he passes by, and then he turns and we see he's covered in blood. The doors to his stable start to rattle, and he goes to a sleigh and he pulls out a big ass axe. Now before we go any further, I've got to tell you this is an anthology movie, and it follows the general anthology rules. There's about 4 stories that are all generally connected with one major wraparound story. But the way that this movie is different from other anthology stories is that it gives you pieces of each story at the same time as they're all happening together, if that makes any sense. If it doesn't, just keep watching. I'll explain. So it's because the stories kind of jump around a little bit that we start at the end of the Santa story, and then we jump back about 12 hours to the town of Bailey Downs. There we meet Dangerous Dan, a radio DJ who loves Christmas and just happens to be played by William Shatner.
I love tinsel, I love Rudolph, I love cranberries, I love baby Jesus. Before he went all hippie with the sandals and the long hair.
Have I ever told you that I love William Shatner, and that I'm fairly sure that William Shatner is my spirit animal? Actually, William Shatner is my spirit animal. That's my next band name. So Dangerous Dan starts telling the listeners about the food drive at the local mall and how their very own Storm and Norman's going to be there. Norman, however, does not like Christmas, and he makes this very clear.
He's writing me a little Christmas card. This is exciting. What's it gonna say?
So then we cut to 3 kids in a car. That's Molly, Ben, and Dylan, and they're all watching police footage on Molly's tablet. What we see in the police footage are 2 police officers walking through a school investigating a crime scene where they find the body of a student staged against the wall in kind of like a Christ-like pose, and a bloody message written on another wall, and yet another body of a student hanging from the ceiling. Molly then tells the other 2 that they have to go into that very school and get their own footage for a school project. It's just then that Dylan's girlfriend Caprice shows up and gives them the keys to the school just before she goes on a holiday vacation with her family. As it turns out, Caprice is quite the klepto.
Honey, stick his fingers in Bailey Downs.
They say their goodbyes and the kids go into the school, and then we automatically cut to Caprice, who's in the car with her parents and her brother on their way to their aunt's house. We learn from their interactions that nobody really wants to be going on this trip, and that they're not a very happy family in general, and they're all kind of douchey.
You hear that? I want this to be a happy, loving family.
So you want a Christmas miracle?
As they're driving down the road arguing about not wanting to go to the aunt's house for Christmas, they pass by Scott, who's parked on the side of the road. Scott was the police officer from the earlier video. Him, his wife Kim, and his son Will are all going to cut down a Christmas tree. They walk through the field, and Will is super excited, talking about Christmas stuff and toys and whatnot, and then they come to a fence with a no trespassing sign. Kim, of course, is apprehensive at first. She doesn't want to go, but Will and Scott are all about it, so they all hop the fence and go to cut down a Christmas tree.
Come on, don't be scared.
We then cut back to Molly, Ben, and Dylan, who are inside the school getting footage for their project when they hear footsteps. They recognize the voice as the principal, and they duck into a restricted area to hide. Cut back to Caprice and her family. They've arrived at the aunt's house, and here we learn that the father is actually only there to try to siphon money out of the aunt because he's got some business idea or whatever. Either way, he's not there for Christmas, he's there for money. We learn that Caprice's mom is actually a giant bitch. Caprice, again being a klepto, starts stealing stuff, and her little brother decides to break a Krampus figurine just to be a douche.
He comes for little boys who touch things they shouldn't.
Oops.
The aunt at this point is mad and she kicks them all out, and we cut to Santa's workshop. At Santa's workshop, all the elves are bustling around, getting ready for the big night. You know, one is getting Santa's measurements, gotta let out his suit a little bit because he's gotten a little bit fatter this year. Another one needs a signature or whatever. They're all gathered around doing their thing, and Santa notices that his elf Shiny, who is sitting there splitting a small log for the fireplace with a hatchet, is coughing, and which is kind of unusual for an elf, you would imagine. Just then, Mrs. Claus comes in with a giant tray of cookies, and everybody starts digging in because, of course, it's the North Pole and Santa and elves, and everybody loves cookies. Except, it would seem, for Shiny. Shiny doesn't want a cookie, he refuses, and when Mrs. Claus gets down to kind of see what's wrong, she says, "Oh, you know, you love my cookies." He snaps at her right before he slams the hatchet into his own hand.
I said I don't want a goddamn cookie! You reindeer fucking snow whore!
He comes up, his hand is falling apart, blood squirting all over the other elves, and then he falls down dead. Which troubles everybody because, as we learned just then, elves can't die.
Elves can't die, right?
No, they cannot.
So then we cut back to Scott, Kim, and Will. They're in the forest. They've chopped down their tree. They're dragging it along. Scott and Kim are in the middle of a conversation. Will is kind of trailing behind, and he hears something. So he stops to listen closer, and by the time Scott and Kim realize that Will's not with them, it's too late.
Where's Will?
He was right here with us. Will?
Having successfully lost their kid in the forest, of course, they freak out and are running around and hollering for him, and he's nowhere to be found. They find his inhaler on the ground, but they don't find him. That is until he pops out of the hollow of a tree. And we can tell right away at that point in time there's something very different about him.
Why'd you take off like that? Why?
I have to stop it right there because if I go on any further, I'm going to start giving away all the really good stuff. I have, however, set up all the stories for you, so everything that comes next is spoilers. Okay, so I still don't want to give too much away, even though this is the spoiler section, because I really think that you should check it out for yourself. However, I will give you a better idea of what each story is about. So, starting with the kids trapped in the school. That's a ghost story. They get trapped in the school until the ghost gets what it wants. The family on the trip? That's a Krampus story, if you couldn't tell from the figurine scene. Because each person in that family is a bad person, Krampus shows up and punishes everybody. However, that story does not end the way you would expect, and is definitely worth checking out. The family that cut down the tree, well, as it turns out, their son is no longer their son, and they should have paid attention to the no trespassing signs. Santa? How about zombie elves? I've always suspected that Santa was like this badass Nordic warrior, and now I kind of know. Also, this story has a crazy twist ending that you will never see coming. And of course, all those stories tie into Dangerous Dan at the radio station, but I'm not going to tell you how. You have to watch the movie and pick out the little clues for yourself to see how they all intertwine.
We're going to share the spirit. We're going to deck some halls. I'm going to get Susan under the mistletoe.
So that's it. That's why you should watch A Christmas Horror Story. It's not just a Christmas story, even though it is a Christmas story. I think this movie is good all year round. But then again, I think most movies are good all year round, no matter what time they're supposed to take place. By the time this is uploaded, it should still be available on Netflix, so you can go check it out there, or find it wherever else you can. So if you haven't seen this movie, I strongly urge you to check it out. And if you have seen it, well, you know why you should go watch it again. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, hit the thumbs down. Let me know in the comments why. Also, if you have any questions or suggestions, hit me up in the comments. Also, I'm always taking suggestions. If you want to get a hold of me in a different way, check out the description for Facebook, Twitter, and some other stuff there as well. So, that's all for now. Until next time, I'm Dustin, this was Horroritis, and as always...
You know who saw that? Jesus saw that.